Hey guys, welcome back to Let's Play Revolt! Before I go on, special thank you to the people who gave me constructive criticism on my very first episode. I listened to all of it, of course, and it really helps me improve. And also to the viewers out there, if you have any criticism for me, please leave it in the comments. I'll look at every single one of them, and hopefully it'll help me improve. Anyway, before we go to the Silver Cup, I just want to talk about the power-ups for a second. The power-ups are very important to understand because they can change whether you will win a race or not, and I didn't really talk about them during my Bronze Cup playthrough, and I feel like I owe you guys a proper explanation. So let's go and show that. The Shockwave, which shoots this big blue ball of electricity directly in front of your car, sends any cars near it flipping out into the air, doing bajillions of barrel rolls. The idea is you need to make sure they're doing a turn or in a tight, cramped space so that they don't exactly stick to landing. Fireworks, which either come individually or in a pack of 3, are your basic homing missile of the game. If they hit an opponent, they'll make them spin out, or in some cases, depending on the angle, make them shoot up into the air. EMP, or Electromagnetic Pulse if you're nasty, creates a defensive electro shield around your car. Any enemy car that drives near you will have their battery cut, coming to a complete stop for a few seconds. It is extremely good on defense, and probably one of the strongest power-ups in the game. A bomb! Unlike other power-ups, this one activates automatically, turning your car into a moving bomb, using the antenna as a fuse. If the fuse counts all the way down to 0, your car simply just blows up and high into the sky. However, you can pass this whammy off to other racers simply by ramming into them. So it's a good idea either to run into another player to give them the bomb, or otherwise just drive to a safe place. The oil slick is pretty much what you expect. Just lay your own little industrial accident onto the track and watch as other racers just spin out and lose control. Water balloons, a pack of 3 non-homing projectiles, causes cars to severely spin out if they get caught by their watery blast. The ball bearing is an extremely heavy black ball that rolls upon being deployed. Any car unfortunate to hit head-on will be stopped dead in their tracks. The clone pickup, which looks exactly like a regular pickup except it explodes upon touching. As you can see, it's one of my personal favorites, especially since it's very difficult to tell the difference between a real and a fake one. Last but not least, we have the Turbo Battery. As its name implies, it increases your car's top speed by 10%. Very useful for catching up. However, you need to be careful to control your car because with all that speed, you can easily lose control of your car. Anyway, without further ado, let us take on the Silver Cup. I have decided to use Aquasonic for his very balanced stats. It's going to come in handy because the Silver Cup is where the game's difficulty spikes up considerably, and that's just because of one very specific track. But we'll talk about that when we get there. The first track in the Silver Cup is called Toy World 1. I really like the Toy World series of tracks because they contain a balanced set of turns and straightaways, as well as just having a really nice aesthetic. In this race, I just completely smoked the AI, but there's something else I'd like to talk about instead. I'd like to talk about the history of Acclaim, the people who published and developed this game in-house. And they have a very, how shall I say it, sordid history, and I feel like I should tell you guys about it, because it is some interesting stuff. So, Acclaim Entertainment. It was founded in 1987 by a former Activision employee called Greg Fishback. He stayed as the CEO of said company until 2004. They started off making kind of mediocre games based on movies and television shows. You might recognize some of them like Bart vs. the Space Mutants or X-Men for NES, and yes, they published Batman Forever. If you've been on the internet long enough, you've probably seen why Batman Forever is an awful, awful game. Anyway, they didn't just do games, they also published games for companies that didn't North American branches such as Taito, which it did Bust a Move for, and Tecno's Double Dragon 2. Lastly, they also were responsible for the console ports of Mortal Kombat. If you've ever heard the controversy about the bloodless version of Mortal Kombat for the SNES, Acclaim did that one. I don't think that was their decision to leave it bloodless, no, that was more Nintendo's influence. But anyway, what Acclaim liked to do is it liked to make a habit of buying out small development studios over its life. And they did produce some good games though. Just to let you know, the iguana you see on the Acclaim logo, that's because they bought out Iguana Entertainment, and that was formerly their logo. And they adopted it into the Acclaim logo whenever Iguana, which was now named Activision Studios Austin, developed a game for them. Anyway, Acclaim Studios Austin were the only games published by Acclaim that I actually liked. They were responsible for games like Iggy's Wrecking Balls, which is this weird racing platformer hybrid where you raced as wrecking balls with little faces on them. It's a weird effing game. They're also responsible for the cult classic Turok games, first-person shooters where you shoot dinosaurs and dudes. And of course, Revolt, which we're looking at right now. Anyway, Acclaim kind of had some hit and misses. Not very unusual for a big company, but that's not what necessarily did them in, although that was a big factor about it. They also were done in by the multiple lawsuits they got, but we'll talk about those in a second. Anyway, as you can see here, I'm completely smoking the AI here. I'm over 150 meters ahead of mouse. I don't think I explained this yet, but the little meter on the bottom left shows the distance between the person behind me and the person ahead of me. Since I'm in first place, you don't see anybody. The more green it is, the better it is regarding how far away you are from them, or how close you are, regarding who you're trying to catch up to. I really wish that was a feature that showed up in more racing games, because it really just kind of shows you how well you are catching up or smoking the AI, or your other racers. And I really like that as a feature, but as you see right here, I'm about to just finish up the track. First place, just smoked the AI. Good thing, let's move on. So this next track should look a little familiar to you guys, but also a little different. You see, every track in the game has mirrored and reversed versions, and you can unlock those by beating the trial times in the time trials mode. The only difference is that the mirrored versions have left turns becoming right turns and vice versa, and the reverse ones are you go backwards to the track. Each track is designed to facilitate these changes, and it's kind of cool, adds a little bit more replay value, but honestly I'd prefer different tracks altogether, like newer ones. But anyway, there's not much to say about this concept, so let's talk more about Acclaim, more specifically the problems that Acclaim had. So you know how I mentioned that Acclaim made a bunch of licensed games? Well, one of those licenses was the World Wrestling Federation, also known as the WWF. They made a bunch of games under that license until one day the WWF decided in 1998 that, you know what, Acclaim, you make some shitty games. We're going over to THQ, they make better wrestling games. And that just left Acclaim floundering. They quickly picked up on the Extreme Championship Wrestling license and made two bad games for them before ECW went bankrupt. ECW owed Acclaim some money, but I don't think they ever paid them back. Since then, until 2004, Acclaim just made wrestling games under the Legends of Wrestling brand, and those didn't sell very well either. However, the biggest contributor to Acclaim's death was the many lawsuits it received, including, but not limited to, the unpaid royalties towards Mary-Kate and Ashley for using their likeness in the Mary-Kate and Ashley games, but never actually paying their royalties. I don't know what happened to this lawsuit, unfortunately. Couldn't find very much information on it. Another one I've heard of is that Acclaim got sued by their own investors because they misled them about financial reports, stating that Acclaim was doing much better than it actually was. I don't know why anyone would believe that Acclaim was doing well, to be honest, but anyway. They also had some terrible ways of tracking their sales, both to distributors and the customers buying their games. Again, not sure what happened to this lawsuit. If anyone can tell me, please do. Lastly, my favorite lawsuit to hear about is the BMX XXX one. This one's a doozy. Basically, before BMX XXX became what it was going to be a Dave Mirra freestyle game, endorsed by Dave Mirra himself. However, Acclaim saw that this game had some very lackluster gameplay and probably wouldn't sell very well, so they decided that styling it after a raunchy sex comedy such as American Pie would make it sell better due to the good old-fashioned philosophy that, you know, sex sells. Unfortunately, topless writers and cutscenes featuring strippers didn't distract people from the shitty gameplay, and the game sold terrible. Furthermore, Dave Mirra himself sued Acclaim, saying, you know what, I don't want to be part of this game, don't imply I'm part of this game, or I'm going to be pissed at you. And he successfully got any involvement that he ever had in this game pulled away. These lawsuits, and also their future games selling horribly, contributed to Acclaim filing Chapter 11 bankruptcy, leaving many employees unpaid and out in the cold. They did file a class action lawsuit, and 10 years later, they won back some of the money from the useless stock they got with their severance package. I don't know if they got all their money back, though, but basically, Acclaim was a big company and just hit the ground hard. Anyway, this race is almost over, and I'm just cooking it in first place, and I'm very glad for that, because the next map is just going to be very, very difficult. I'm not going to spoil anything about it. You're going to see for yourself why this next level is going to be just terrible. Also, epic bomb dodge right there. I guess one thing I do like about Toys in the Hood 1 Reversed is that, actually not reversed, mirrored, is that you can also run into people trying to get through that T intersection, like you saw over there. I thought that was kind of a cool thing. One more thing before I go to the next level. You might have noticed the arrows on top. Those just show you the way to go. When the path is non-linear, like on Toys in the Hood 1, just follow those arrows and you'll be fine. They're pretty big and obvious. Okay, I need to interrupt my history lesson on Acclaim to tell you guys one very important thing. I hate this track. I hate Ghost Town 2. I hate this track. Why do I hate this track? First of all, the straightaways are all very narrow. Therefore, you're either rebounding off the walls or hitting your fellow racers just trying to go through the bottlenecks. You just come to a dead stop most often. Secondly, there's a bunch of small hills on this track, which cause you to either just flip over or go high into the air and then spin out when you land. And they're everywhere. Ugh. Third, just the bar. The bar sucks. You keep hitting either the bar itself, a stool, or you hit the wall trying not to turn too late, or you hit the wall behind it trying not to turn too early. And then you gotta go up another straightaway that you can't avoid. And you gotta do this like 3-4 times. And it sucks. This track alone is why the Silver Cup just has this big difficulty curve, and this feels like a Gold Cup track. I don't know what Acclaim was thinking. I guess, you know, a little spike in difficulty never hurt anyone, but if I were a riskier car, not one balanced like Aquasonic, I would just be dying on this track. I would have to use my continues, all of my continues on this track. But the one thing I like about the Ghost Town tracks is their unique music. It's really awesome, and I don't know why the other tracks in the game don't have unique music, but the one for Ghost Town really fits, and I like to listen to it in my car sometimes. It's that good. Sadly, that's the only good thing I could say about Ghost Town. Do I need to do another lap of this? Alright. The thing I'm trying to do here is to stay in third place or better, because that's how you place. And I have enough points to win as long as I get in first place on the next track, which is not going to be a problem. This is the problem track. You see, I'm just bumping into the walls. I mean, I look like I'm driving like an idiot, but if you play this track, you'll see that this is just so hard to keep control of your car. Fuck you, mouse. Anyway, thankfully, looks like I'm gonna get second. Yep, fuck this track, I'm done. So the last track in the Silver Cup is called Toy World 2. Now this one is one of my favorite tracks, not only because it feels like a toy store come to life, but it is a challenging track, but not to the point of frustration. Goes down! Excuse me. Anyway, I feel like we should conclude this episode by just finishing up what we were talking about Acclaim. There's just a few more things I want to note about the company. Acclaim Entertainment is remembered as a terrible publisher, and rightfully so. Not only did they make a bunch of mediocre games, they did some very strange marketing deals, such as offering money to any person who named their baby Turok, and also trying to buy advertising space on gravestones for Shadowrun. As you can probably guess, those were probably not very well received. Anyway, they do live on in some good ways. For example, something I learned while researching this topic is that Acclaim had actually been doing research on the side of motion capture. I don't know much about motion capture stuff, but they did come up with their own unique format called the Acclaim Skeleton File and Acclaim Motion Capture formats, ASF and AMC relatively. They're actually still used today in the industry. I'll link a page in the description where you can read more about this if you like. Also, they did publish Revolt, which is one of my favorite games of all time. I'm serious, I love this game. Whenever I'm down or just want to race, I just load up Revolt and do a race or two. It's really nice and serene in a way. Also, just a brief note about Revolt. Revolt and its spiritual sequels such as RC Revenge Pro now belong to a South Korean company called WeGo Interactive, who I learned will actually be releasing iOS and Android versions of Revolt sometime in 2013. I'm definitely going to look out for it, and if you guys want to play it on your mobile devices, I suggest you keep an eye out too. Lastly, I kind of mentioned this in passing, but there is a public build of Revolt you can play for free. Again, I don't feel comfortable linking it because I don't know about its legality, but I also learned that the source code for Revolt is out there, which is how they could build the public game you can download. This is also how people play on RV House, and you can probably just Google to find it, but again, I don't feel comfortable linking it, so yeah. Acclaim still lives on in their little ways, Revolt being one of them. Anyway, all there's left to do right now is to just take this thing home. Next week, we'll be doing a bonus video describing all the cars we could unlock up to this point, including the ones unlocked by beating the Silver Cup, and also the practice stars for the Silver Cup tracks. But for now, let's just take it home, enjoy our victory, and I'll see you next week.